So, you're feeling stuck. Or maybe you're simply not sure what step to take next. That's all right. No one came into this life expecting you to have all the answers all the time, or even most of the time. However, for some reason, we sometimes get real hard on ourselves when we're in the unknown. We don't know what to do. Well, this video is created to assist you in giving yourself a little more ease and peace at where you're at right here in the journey. Because I find it matters far less in our lives what happens. What's more important is what we consistently choose to do with what happens in our lives. Giving yourself permission to enjoy your state of creating can lead to the kind of life that most people dream about living. So let's help those dreams become reality, and I'll show you a few perspectives from here. Now, I'm Danielle Lynn, and I talk to flow-based creators such as yourself. It's pretty fun. And one of the things we do together is shift our perspectives. So for the next several minutes or however long we're talking, I'm going to share a few thoughts that will likely help you shift your perspectives as well. Part of the reason I felt inspired to create a different kind of conversation with you today is as a demonstration and a reminder that when we shift up the patterns and shift up the perspective, new possibilities become open to us. And I imagine that this can serve as an additional reminder for you in all the different ways that you can approach life from here. So let's shift to another perspective and tell you some stories. All right. So here's the thing about shifting perspectives and allowing yourself to live in flow. It's not about conceptualizing yourself as a person who never has problems and therefore getting inherently frustrated or upset when a challenge emerges. It's about giving yourself permission to have an entirely new relationship with what shows up in your life and how you respond to it. So let's talk about the power of randomness. Now, if you've watched some of my previous conversations, you might notice that there are elements that might have similarities, but there are also elements of randomness. Randomness can be seen as pattern breakers in your reality. If you've ever watched the movie Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, you'll notice that, spoiler alert, one of the things that they do to shift realities is to instigate a random pattern sequence, right? Eat an apple, tap on your finger 3 times, and boom, now you know something different. Now, they might have been exaggerating it a little bit for comedic effect. Maybe. However, in a very similar way, acts of intentional and maybe unintentional randomness through your day can assist you in shifting patterns literally at a physiological, neurological level. It's been theorized that we think 90% or so of the same thoughts each day. And if you're thinking the same thoughts, you're likely going to be reinforcing the same behaviors each and every day. Now, making a new choice or a new behavior, doing something new, even if it might lead to something favorable for you, can actually trigger a lot of discomfort. It can trigger a lot of discomfort because the part of yourself that feels rewards for being comfortable, for following patterns and loops, is suddenly shifted into a place where it doesn't immediately predict the next step, which sends a signal of feeling discomfort. Now, if you're relying on a pattern to feel stable within yourself, that can then lead you to feeling anxiety or distress. And generally, the answer that is presented to yourself in that state is, well, let me think about what I should do, or let me conjure up a way to feel better in the moment. And this is where people come into planning. A lot of times we're so invested in our stories because it allows us to feel on some level that we're in control of the situation. Because we believe that by knowing how the story is supposed to go or is likely to go in our mind, we believe somehow that things will turn out the way we expect. Now, for most of us who have lived, we understand that there can be general trajectories towards the way we go, but by and large, this reality appears to work in ways that it's not always going to go how your mind expects it to go. And so, whenever we find ourselves in the resistance of flow, we're really just resisting the present moment. We might have a script going on in our head that says things should happen a certain way, or it has certain rules where if this then that, I can only be happy if this happens. When we engage in a path in our lives where there is something we want and we perceive we must effort our way to the thing, we create a pattern of efforting in our life. Some people hear that and it may be challenging to see life another way. Perhaps you've had a lot of hardships in your life, or the only way you've been able to perceive moving through your life is with effort. It's very understandable why it would be foreign that there could be a flow-based way for you to experience something. But I present to you a perspective that just because things have always happened a certain way in your life, it doesn't discount the possibility, nay, the likelihood, that there are multiple ways to navigate through reality. It begins with allowing yourself to stand on a steady, grounded foundation. And that foundation comes from within. Much of what I share, much of what I repeat, is allowing you to contemplate a new perspective that is rooted in empowerment. So it doesn't matter as much what specifically happens. Instead, you find yourself consistently arriving in the present moment from a place where you can make the most empowered choices. And this is the key shift from my reality that comes with living in, what I'm calling the alchemical way, which is, it's not so much that we're attempting to force or fix change. We are being the shift by allowing ourselves to embody who we presently are without getting so stuck in the stories about who we are that we miss the moment. Because anything that you can conceive of as a future probability might be super cool. But you're never going to experience it until you allow yourself to be in the moment. Because you might find yourself at a cool vacation, on a cool trip, in the arms of someone you love, on a great adventure, unable to fully appreciate the moment if you do not give yourself the permission to get very in tune with being present now. If you require conditions to happen a certain way before you're allowed to be okay, then you have assigned your sense of stability a role outside of you, and therefore may feel constantly tilted by the changing winds. And this is why we sometimes see people chasing after cars or relationships or spirituality or anything else. Nothing is better or worse to get yourself immersed in. You can drink too much water, even though water assists us with life in this world. You can get too deep into your spirituality and self-help journey. You can get too deep into your physical training regimen. Anything we use to distract ourselves from our present moment can be seen as an escape tool to some level or another, no matter how anyone tries to justify it. You know, there's fun times to escape. I mean, we build escape rooms for the sole purpose of escaping. I find that The key is to just give yourself permission to do and be what you're doing fully. If you're choosing to escape in the moment, then perhaps test this out where you say something like, all right, I'm choosing to escape right now. Now is the time for me to conceal the self. And what's funny is when you begin to do that, when you begin to play with yourself in that way, then you've made a subtle shift from feeling perhaps dragged by your tendencies to you're almost taking ownership of them. And if you find yourself creating a habit of taking ownership for what you're doing, fairly soon you may realize that even as you're declaring things, because you're so conscious of the ownership you're taking, you may find it more easeful to make a new choice, to see things from a new way. This is the profound power of observation. Most of the time, we might really convince ourselves we're being aware of things, but it's simply a ruse, a mirage, to allow ourselves to keep performing on the same pattern. And so to bring it back around, randomness can help us in just stepping ever so slightly even into an observer mode, or just coming out of the automation for even a moment, for even a breath of air before we go back in, so that we can start saying, well, if there is a place that I perceive that I prefer to be, and in this now moment, on some level or another, I'm telling myself I can't do it, or I can't have it, or I don't have enough energy or money or time or whatever it is, well then what am I giving myself permission to do right now? And let me just start stepping in the role of owning it. And then perhaps I can just start saying, well, now I'm giving myself permission to do this or that. And then you may find a new momentum, right? Picks up. We're all just having good fun here. Really, different shades of fun. We're all just having good fun here. So I'll share a story in my own life with you. I figured stories are good. It's a good place to dive in together. When I began creating YouTube videos way back when, I had such a care about how others perceived me. And you're welcome to go back through the channel. I've kept several of those videos up, so you can check them out. And you can notice the difference in my cadence and in my tone. And even though I had some great information, like high five, Danielle of that time, there was a certain level of, I'm going to call it strain. There was a certain level of strain to how I was presenting, because I wasn't choosing to show up as my full self. There were parts of myself I wanted to conceal or not reveal. And this was all happening at a subconscious level. There was a point I realized that I simultaneously wanted, I had an inspiration to share videos, and yet I would feel like holding myself back if I didn't quite have the look or the feel I wanted for that day. When I finally decided to simply be the creator that I am, at that time, I dropped any sense of, well, I'm going to care whether people see me this way or that way, or, oh, do I have a double chin, or, is it going to be like this? I just started to be like, I'm going to play with this. I'm going to give myself permission to have this full experience. And in doing so, I'm simply going to be the creator I am. And I'll tell you, I've had a lot of fun with it since. I imagine you'll give yourself more and more permission each day to be the creator you are in whatever shape it takes. I invite you, if you enjoyed this video, to like, share, subscribe. And please feel invited to check out my description links. I got links to the Alchemy Lab. It's a cool community that I facilitate, as well as a few other resources and tools if you'd like to go deeper in work and play with me. And in all cases, I appreciate you, and I look forward to our next conversation.